The Interactive Fiction Competition 2020 has begun. It's going to run until nearly the end of November, and there is a record number of games, 104. Well, that means that the one thing that the competition needs most, and that the interactive fiction community needs most, is people who are going to play those games, rate those games, and talk about those games. And that is where we come in, we judges. I'm making this video in order to help you become an interactive fiction competition judge if you've never done so before, or maybe inspire you if you have done so before. Now, before I show you how to do this, maybe you are already wondering, like, I haven't played so much interactive fiction, I don't know too much about it, will people even care about my opinion? And I think the answer to those questions is definitely, yeah, people will care about your opinions. Here's the thing. For us, as players, as judges, what really makes the competition fun is seeing what other people think about those same games and talking about those games, exchanging our opinions. And I would say that the more voices are in that conversation, the merrier. What's more, for the authors, I can tell you from experience and from having seen other authors talk about this in the authors forum in earlier years, what authors really want is to see that people are playing their games and to hear what people are thinking about their games. So even if you play just one game and write about that so that the author can see it, you will already have done something positive and important for the competition. So please be a judge, even if you have played no interactive fiction before. If you're able to read English and click on links on a computer screen, then you are well qualified to be part of this. So that said, let's open up a browser window and see how to be a judge in the interactive fiction competition. Where do we go? Well, we go to ifcomp.org. This is it, the website of the interactive fiction competition. And this is the link that we're going to click in a minute in order to browse and play this year's entries. But first I want to talk you through something that is, not too shocking, but kind of important. It's the rules for judges. So here are the rules for judges, and especially the first three are worth discussing a little bit. So ifcomp is meant for relatively short games of 2 hours or less. And authors are allowed to send in bigger games, but Rule 1 says judges must base their judgments of each game on at most the first 2 hours of play. So if you play a longer game, then after 2 hours, you're allowed to play on, but you should record your vote, or at least think about what your grade is going to be after 2 hours. If you want your ratings to count during the competition, you must play and rate at least 5 games. That may sound like a lot, but many of these games are very short, right? Including lots of games that will take maybe only 10 to 15 minutes to play. So playing 5 games in the next 2 months is not that, great of a challenge. Nevertheless, even if you play only one game, in that case your rating is not going to count on the website, but if you play one game and you write something to the author or you write something in a public forum, again, that is already a great contribution. Rule 3, judges may discuss the game during the judging period. In fact, I would positively encourage you to do so, right? That's what makes judging fun, that's what makes this fun for the authors. So those are, I would say, for us, the 3 sort of rules that bear pointing out. Let's take a look at the other ones. If you're an author, you can't judge. Well, that's, I think, pretty self-explanatory. If you have beta tested any of these games, you're not supposed to rate them, although you can discuss them. You're not obligated to replay updated versions. So authors can change their game, can update it, but you don't have to take a look at that. You can just rate whatever version it was that you played. And if you rate a game, you should have made a good effort, a good faith effort to play it. That's pretty sensible, right? It's not the idea that you open up the title screen, say, "Ooh, I hate this color purple," turn it off and give it a 1, right? That's not real judging. But I think that kind of makes sense. So then we are ready to browse and play this year's entries. And if we click this, what we are going to see is a gigantic list of games, which will be randomly shuffled. Now, by all means, scroll through this game, check out what's there, see if anything catches your eye. But what I would recommend, or what I at least want to point out to you, is this button for the personal shuffle. In order to get a personal shuffle, you need to register on the IFComp website and be signed in, which you can do here in the top right. And in order to rate games, you also need to register and sign in, so you have to do that anyway. I suggest that you do it immediately here at the beginning of the competition, so that you can use your own personal shuffle. What this means, the personal shuffle is a random shuffle that is going to be the same every time you come to the website. And if you kind of start playing some games from the top of your personal shuffle, if everybody does that, then theoretically all games will get about the same amount of attention. So that's generally what I do. I kind of start at the top of my personal shuffle. You don't have to. I mean, you can just search out some games that look good to you, that look interesting to you, whatever works for you. Okay, so suppose you're here at your personal shuffle and you are, looking at some game to play. You're definitely allowed, of course, to pick games that appeal to you. What I would especially do is for every game to look at these keywords, because they could tell you something about whether this is interesting for you, whether you can play it, whether you want to play it, whether it's the right moment to play it. What we see here is first a genre. So this is weird, this is science fiction, this is horror. Maybe you are somebody who doesn't like horror, or maybe you're somebody who loves horror, right? That's going to be relevant for making choices. Very useful is that the game author has made a sort of estimate of how long the game is going to take. Half an hour, maybe. Or, well, here's no estimate. Maybe 1 hour, 15 minutes or less. But it could also be longer than 2 hours. In fact, this game's blurb tells us that it takes 15 hours. Just to remind you, if you play this game, you would have to rate it after 2 hours, right? That's rule 1 of the competition. So sometimes you have 15 minutes, right? And you want to tackle a short game. Sometimes you have a long evening before you and you might want to tackle something more substantial. So that's useful to look at. The web-based keyword tells you that you can play it from the web without downloading anything. And perhaps most importantly, there's the difference between choice-based games and parser-based games. So a choice-based game is the kind of game where you make choices based on clicking links or maybe clicking buttons, something like that. Whereas a parser-based game is the kind of game where you type in commands, like examine the clock, open the door, talk to the man, take this, do that. If you've never played parser-based games before, parser-based games can be kind of intimidating. I have a video about how to play them on my channel. I believe it's episode 3. It's called An Introduction to Interactive Fiction. So you could watch that if you want to try out parser-based games. By all means do. Parser-based games are brilliant. But if you're looking for a sort of easy point of entry into the interactive fiction competition, then choice-based games might be a better choice. No pun intended. So, suppose that I decide to, play Doppel Jobs because it sounds interesting. I click the Play Online button and I see Doppel Jobs. Fantastic. So, okay, let's suppose that I've played it. Hey, when I'm on Windows, these signs actually work. They didn't work on Linux. That's probably not going to be true for most games. Once I've played the game, I can rate it. I can rate it here. I can also go to the voting ballot, which is a page where you just see all the names and the ratings. But let's suppose that I rate here. So I give it a rating of, let's say, 7, because I enjoyed Doppel Jobs. And I did, in fact, enjoy Doppel Jobs. This is not final. I can change my rating whenever I want. In fact, I myself, review my ratings as I play more games. So let's say I give it a 7 now. That's great, right? I've rated a game, and if I do this for 5 games, then my ratings will count for the competition, for the results in the end. But I would say that it would be lovely if you can take a further step, right? And the further step is to say something about the game. So there is here an edit feedback button, which you can use to say something. Hi, author. I enjoyed your game because blah, blah, blah. Who knows, right? Say something about it. This kind of feedback will be revealed to the author only at the end of the competition. So once the competition is over, authors will be able to see all the feedback that was given here. And that's nice, but it means that there's not really a conversation about the game going on. And I can also tell you that authors, they would love to see something already happening during the competition rather than wait 2 months for feedback. So if this is what you're most comfortable with, absolutely do it. You could also choose to just send people an email or maybe contact them on Twitter. But here an email, that allows them to send something back to you. It's more real time, a little bit more direct. But what I would especially like you to do is to use one of the 2 main websites for sharing your interactive fiction thoughts and reviews. So the first of those would be the Interactive Fiction Database, ifdb.tats.org. It's sometimes a bit slow for technical reasons. People are looking at that, or they will in the near future. But we are, experiencing a bit of a slowdown, especially with the front page. Don't think it doesn't work. Just wait a couple of seconds. And so here you can search a game that you've just played, Doppel Jobs in this case. And you see this, and you can, once you've made an account, rate and review the game. And this is the place, the Interactive Fiction Database is the place where people in years to come are going to check out reviews of the game. And so, if we're thinking about sort of the longer term, beyond the competition, then this is probably the best place to put your thoughts, to put your reviews. So you can just give a rating, but a review is of course even better, even more fun. During the competition, I think it would be even better, even more fun if you go to the Interactive Fiction Forum at intfiction.org and use the IFComp subforum, which is here, where you can make a new topic or maybe, post in an existing topic and share your thoughts about games. And these could be reviews, but they could also be just some loose or random thoughts. Maybe you have an in-depth analysis, or maybe you just want to ask a question, like I don't understand how in this game I can do that. All of that is absolutely welcome here on the InFiction forum. So please come here, please interact with us. Let's talk about these games. Let's share our thoughts and opinions. A lot of authors will be looking at this as well, because they have a secret, or I guess I should say private authors forum here on the intfiction.org website. So they'll be hanging out here. They'll be, eager to see other people's thoughts about their games. And so this is a fantastic place where I really kind of hope to meet you. And of course, you can also do both, right? Post something on the InFiction forum and on the IFDB. To recap that, playing the game, of course, is the most important thing. You can rate it, you can send private feedback, either through the website or through email to the authors, or you can share your thoughts with all of us on the IFDB or the intfiction.org website. Well, that's that. I hope you will join us as a judge in this competition. I hope to be talking to you, speaking to you, sharing thoughts with you about these games in a way that's going to be, I think, really enjoyable for all of us. So see you around.